Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Hospitality Tech Show. Michael Woodson here, the place where we keep building the bridge between hospitality and technology and together. I'm the host, and together with my co host, I welcome Susan Graves. Welcome, Susan.
I am happy to be co-hosting with you, Mr. Woodson. Michael, we're going to have a blast tonight. Our
We are.
guest
We've got
is
a special.
phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah, we do. We do. We're going to have a blast. And we're truly thrilled to have her and have her with us tonight. But before we dive in, though, I'm going to take a moment to acknowledge something very important. And we are here today because of some incredible individuals who believed in our vision when it was just an idea. So I want to call them out: the workforce, Montgomery, the Integrity Restaurant Group, and also the folks at IBM. I want to make sure that they recognize them, because without them we wouldn't be here. So thank you to our donors and sponsors. We really appreciate that. So your belief in our mission to empower students and bridge the gap between hospitality and technology has made this journey possible, and we are deeply grateful to all of them. And for those of you who have joined us, if you are an experienced leader in hospitality or technology and want to give back to the next generation of students, we encourage you to join us. We invite you to do so. So get in touch with us. So then together we can get together and create an even greater opportunity to inspire the future of our industry. So contact us, and I look forward to hearing from you. So tonight we have a special guest. Yes. And let me make sure I keep my voice and tone correctly, because I'm going to get a bad grade if I don't. So a true leader in this space in hospitality. Her name is Anna Blue. She's the CEO and of the Blue Moss Group and the founder of the Hospitality Creator Summit, a first of its kind platform bringing together hospitality leaders, creators, and brands to shape the future of storytelling and influence in the industry. A strategic advisor and speaking with more than 2 decades of experience. She is known for helping leaders across the hospitality and beyond the use of business as a force for good. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anna.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. So what do you think? All right. Here we are, 2026. What's happening on in technology? The industry has evolved.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? I'll let you go for it. Anna.
Which part of the industry? Just talking about tech specifically?
We've got tech. We've got image of hotels evolving, hiring for new students coming into the industry.
Yeah.
It's an evolving industry. We've got artificial intelligence. We've got cloud technology. We have robotics being incorporated into we have changes in the food and beverage. We've got people who come in with a variety of different technologies into the hotels, and the investments that have to be made to be competitive. Let me just stop there for me, out of my mouth, and hear from you. Most important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that yes, the hospitality industry is evolving. Whether it's by will or by force is another question. I do think that while the evolutions are happening in tech and experiential hospitality and all of the ways that the hotel industry is continuing to try to appeal to the guest and the consumer and the customer, I still think that those evolutions are leaving some pretty big gaps on the human side. I don't think that the workforce, in a number of different ways, from hiring practices to equity and access to development of workforce talent and all of those things, is evolving at the same rate. And so it's an interesting push-pull, right, for the industry, because I do think that those gaps are widening, while other gaps, while other things are advancing faster than others.
So I have a question then, on that line that I'm going to take it right from there. So, you talk about aligning business strategy and social impact and using hospitality as a force for good, which I love. So, but what does that actually look like in a hotel or a restaurant or, a brand from day to day? Paint the picture. What does that look like ideally?
Yeah. So, a lot of times when people hear like social impact or community impact, they automatically think of those specific acts of service that you can do, right? You take your team to do a volunteer day.
Yep.
You get turkeys or food packages together and you give them away in your hotel lobby
Mhm.
for people who have food insecurities or homelessness during Thanksgiving or during the holidays. And those are wonderful things. Backpack drives for students going back to school. Those are really wonderful things. I would never advocate that those go away, but those are just one-off ways of connecting. If you see what happens, even with just one of those things, the joy that it brings, how happy your employees are, the way that the community responds, just all of those things, imagine now pulling that into part of your business strategy. So if you think about, we spend so much time on strategic planning and your business strategy and your goals and your KPIs, and then good is like over here off to the side.
Mhm.
We have data upon data. I mean, McKinsey does a report every single year about how having a social impact strategy that is aligned as part of your business strategy helps with everything. It makes you a more
Mhm.
profitable company. It gives you better brand and recognition. People like you more, right? It gives you a happier workplace with less turnover. And this industry has a massive turnover problem. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I've never met
Yeah.
anybody like, I don't want to be more profitable. I love hiring people over and over and over, right? Like that doesn't exist, but we're really behind on understanding how those things do go hand in hand. And like, I'll start having these conversations and show the data. And it's like, oh, interesting. Because people just think of it as the do good thing over there. But that's not how the world works. It's not how consumers or the workforce works anymore.
So do you
Interesting.
pull this into when you think about the E, the S, and the G, right? You
Yeah.
know, we often hear, oh, we have an ESG plan and it's all environmental, right? So
Yeah.
the S seems to get lost somehow, and the governance, I'm not sure they know what to do with it. But from a social impact standpoint, and maybe this will be covered, in this summit you're having, the very first. I'm so excited to be joining you for the
Yeah.
summit. I'm wondering if the social impact side, if we could try to help write a better storyline for
Yeah.
the social impact that people are producing at their respective
Yeah.
hotel, in their brands, in
Yeah.
their communities. Because when you put a hotel in a community, it brings social impact. It's
Yeah.
just, I'm not sure
You
we're
hope.
great retailers. I'm not sure we tell that about our brand. We're talking about the numbers all the
Yeah.
time, right, on Wall Street, and then in the business with number, and then environmental.
Yeah.
Oh, I have my key. I have my green key. Well, you know what? What about your social impact as part of your overall strategy, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It is interesting how I think there's such a disconnect in general, just in the way that our business is set up from people and the decision makers, right? They're often in a different city and state altogether. You don't have access to every day. You're not making those specific on-site hotel decisions. So between the three legs of the stool, right? Owners, management companies, and brands, there's just a lot of disconnect in general.
Yeah.
So who's on first? Whose job is it to do good? Everybody's, I would argue. But it is, it's an interesting, right now people conflate doing good with DEI, right? So it's like that sort of became how people were doing good is, oh, we're investing in women and we're investing in people of color and we're trying to expand who has access to ownership, or we're pretending to, or whatever.
right.
And so now when you say social impact, people are like, bad, stay away, right? Because it's become so politically charged.
Yeah.
And that's not what social impact has to be. Do I very much believe and will die on the hill of equity and access? Absolutely. Like, I'm happy to have the DEI conversation with anybody all day long, but it doesn't have to be that. It's investing in your community. It can be investing in the planet and in sustainability. Like, good is far more than just the box checking that people have been doing, which was honestly, if we're going to be really honest, largely performative anyway. So good can mean a lot of things, and that's why I advocate for building it into a strategy. Then you can really decide what it is, what it means, what it looks like, and how you're going to measure it.
You're
But one
so
of the things is that, with
about
that said,
this.
though, so let me jump in here for a minute, John. So what's important to know is that one size doesn't fit all.
Correct.
Right.
Not at all. Yeah.
Important for them to understand their community where they can have that impact and aligned to those issues in that community. You just don't show up with a generic, this is our offering, and call it a day. There's got to be a nexus of
Absolutely.
connection. And you need to go find what that is. What's plaguing the communities that you serve or where
Yeah.
you live, and
Yeah.
actually take a role. It could be a playground, it could be a church, it could be something that you
Mhm.
can have a project that has such impact that it really, makes a difference, and it also stands up the respect of the brand, and that's what you
Yep.
want to achieve.
Yeah.
So that component about doing an assessment of your
Yep.
community before you even come to with a strategy should be part of the conversation.
Absolutely. And I would even go a step further and say, before you look outside your doors, look inside your doors, right?
Right.
So
Right.
what do your own people need?
Mhm.
What do they need in terms of development? What do they need in terms of career pathing? You want to talk about students and what they're looking for. If I hear one more old CEO say like, oh, this generation just wants to come in and take my job, they don't want to work hard. Come on, like enough with that. What they
AI
want to
should
know, right? Like what they want to know is that there is a path for them. And like you
Yes.
should be chomping at the bit to have that conversation. Like somebody is saying to you, what does my future here look like?
Mhm.
Tell them what their future looks like. Like why that is seen as a red flag is beyond me. Like it is truly bewildering because we complain all the time. Nobody wants to stay. Nobody wants to grow. They just want to like come and get their 2 years and then leave. No, they're asking you, what does
For
that
path.
path look like?
Right,
How
exactly.
can I get there? What is the training and development? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So before you even think like broadly into the community, let's start with the people who are inside your buildings, the
Mhm.
people that you want to be investing in guests. Let's invest in those people. And so social impact is also just taking care of your own and doing it differently and really listening to them and starting with culture. And then you can build and work outward from there. But what a lot of people, and especially young people today, will look at is like, oh, interesting. This company is doing XYZ in the community. Let me go onto Glassdoor and see how they treat their employees, right? They want to know that you are actually like living those values that you spew out and have on your website. They want to know how that shows up inside. So you have to be willing to do both.
So you lean into people all the time. I love it. It's a force for good here. You talk about it all the time. There has to be a moment in your career where you saw hospitality literally change someone's life trajectory, right? So do you have a moment in mind that you're like, this was my pivotal moment? This is where leaning into people, like.
Now, you know what? My moment comes really late because I didn't start in hospitality, right? I've only been in hospitality since January of 2023. So I came from social impact. I came early on from politics and from campaigning and then social impact. And so I never, even when this job was presented to me by the person who, at AHLA, who like kind of led me onto that path, I was like, what would I do? And I don't understand. What would I do in hospitality? What would I do in hotels? It doesn't make sense coming, I come from gender equity. I come from kind of that world. And so, but the most pivotal moment for me, and I've talked a lot about this, in other settings, is to me, what I've learned in my career from an impact standpoint is if you want to make change, and that's all I care about. I want things to change. I want systems to change. I want things to be better for people across many different intersections and lenses of that. And if you want to make change, you need to have access to decision makers. You need to have the resources to drive the change, the ability to mobilize people, all of those things. You have to have access to power and decision makers, and there has to be a desire to change. Because I have worked in industries where they talk a big game and they have massive decision makers, some of the largest companies and largest brands in the world, not hospitality related, who had zero desire to change. They just wanted to make it look like they were checking the box. That I'm not interested in that. So as I'm going through this process, I was very disconnected from, I don't understand what good I could do here, but I was doing a favor for a friend of mine who was recruiting for this position at AHLA. And then I met Tom Bardenett, who is at RLJ. and he was the chair at the time of the AHLA Foundation. And I sat with him, and he was so passionate about the industry, about hotels, about hoteliers, but mostly about the power that this industry has to do better for people. And like I said, you need access to decision makers, and you need a desire to change. And I thought, if I could meet 5 people like that, if I could meet 5 people like that in this industry, I could have a hell of an impact. Some real difference could happen. And that was really the pivotal moment for me that convinced me that hospitality was different, that there was actual opportunity to do good on behalf of people and community in this industry. And it was really seeing somebody who was so passionate, not only about hotels, because we know hoteliers love hotels. That passion is big, and I have learned that.
That's true.
But his passion in harnessing that, how much the hoteliers love hotels for good. I thought, that's amazing. If I can get just a handful of people. And then what I quickly learned is that those people are everywhere. And it's helping give them direction. It's helping them understand this doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to look like that. Helping them understand where this needs to align with strategy. But the desire and the willingness to do good, I believe, is everywhere in this industry.
I do have a question to build on that. So
yeah,
I mentioned when we were off camera earlier about the franchise versus the corporate. Mm-hmm. And you see that a misalignment occurring in some cases.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the farther you get away from people being humans and not items in a spreadsheet, when people are just part of a P&L and they're not human beings with faces and families and all of those things. So the more you get into private equity, the more you sort of travel down that road of REITs and some of the bigger companies where they're just looking at the business component of it. They're not looking at the human component of it. They're so disconnected from that. And not that they're not good people, but they're just disconnected from that. I think the harder it is for those decisions to be made at that level. You've taken a lot of the human out of hotel leadership. And you've made it pretty distant, and it is hard. It takes a little bit more of a step, I think, to lasso that back in.
Interesting. So in a sense that as you have found your niche in hospitality and you had thought about exiting you here, and today you have this show coming up, and what that. Let's talk about that. Tell us about that journey, how it came to be, where you've been, where you now, and where you hope to go.
Yeah, well, it's coming fast. Sometime last year, I think it was like late last summer, one of the places that I come from on the social impact side is kind of aligning nonprofits and brands or big movements, right? I worked a lot in gender equity kind of at the height of all of those conversations. And so I have worked with a ton of influencers and content creators and all of these things in lots of different capacity, and celebrities and all of that. And so, and for my own journey, when I came into this industry, nobody knew who I was. I have to raise millions of dollars for the AHLA Foundation. Most people don't even understand what the foundation does. They might know AHLA,
let's
but
talk
they're
about
unfamiliar.
That. What is that foundation?
Well, it's not mine anymore, but I'm happy to talk about it.
You used to open with that. Do you know what it is?
Right. That was exactly. You've heard me say that.
I remember you opening with that. Do you all know what this is?
Yeah. How many people raise your hand if you could confidently tell me what the AHLA Foundation is? AHLA, the foundation is the social impact arm of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. So the association side focuses on advocacy and sort of fighting for the business, the success of the business, and the foundation is there to align on the people. So workforce development, anti-human trafficking, gender equity, sort of all of those things. So it's that side of the industry, but because it has members that are owners, management companies, GMs, suppliers, kind of all of it. They sit at the crux of all of that. There's a tremendous amount of access and opportunity in the foundation. And so when I came in, nobody knew who I was. I didn't know anybody. And so I'm supposed to get on stage and I'm supposed to capture an audience and I'm supposed to be somebody that people want to give money to. And that's hard to do if they don't know who you are or,
Mhm.
your value. And so very early, I mean, I think Rachel Humphrey and the It's Personal Stories, I think I did that podcast interview like 3 weeks in. And so
Wow.
I was like, who, what? So very quickly, it was the B2B creators, Glenn Hausman and Anthony Malchiori and Modern Hotelier and Hospitality Daily with Josiah McKenzie. They were the ones that gave me a platform that helped the industry get to know who I was and where I come from and why I'm different and how I'm a disruptor and all of those things. And then as I was leaving HLA Foundation, it was very much the same thing. They wanted to know where I was going and what I was doing and what's next and how can I, potentially stay and continue in the industry. And so one night I was like, I really just don't think this industry values B2B creators the way that they should. These are incredibly knowledgeable people, most of whom have given their entire career to hospitality. And they're seen as like individual one-offs, right? Like they're seen as like everybody knows Glenn Hausman or everybody knows, this guy, Anthony Malchiori was Mr. Hotel Impossible. But as a collective community, B2B creators have a tremendous amount of value. And I don't think that this industry values them as a collective whole the way that they should. I think that there's so much that gets done through that visibility that people just don't recognize. And so I thought, what if we bring them all together? What if we get 200 of the industry's content creators, digital content producers, community builders, storytellers, and we bring them together to show the collective power and value of the B2B creator community? Because the brands, they're going to use the B2C creators, right? They use the travel influencers, and that's great. But when you want to know what company is merging with whom and, what are the new innovations? That's where you go. You go to them. And so that's what we're doing. We have an incredible partnership with Frank Wolf and HFTP. Then they're giving us space during High Tech to put on the first Hospitality Creator Summit. It has been invite only. So we have a short application on our website that just helps us make sure that we have the right people in the room, partially because High Tech, as part of our partnership, they're giving free passes to all of our content creators who are coming to be able to attend the main stage and show floor and the welcome party of High Tech. And so we don't want people like using our event as like a way to sneak into High Tech and not pay.
Yeah. You got to have a reason to be there, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have a reason because we're doing live content creation.
She wants contributors there.
Absolutely. We're doing like live content creation. The program is incredible. The first half of the day is sort of hearing from experts, people outside of our industry who are expert narrative crafters and storytellers and podcast hosts and newsletter people who can teach you how to monetize your newsletter. And then we have the second half of the programming in the day is really focused around we're going to hear from 2 brands on how they use content creators, how they make those decisions. And then we're going to hear from vendors and suppliers about how they work with our B2B content creators within the industry. So a lot of like immediate insights, and it's going to be great.
So it's really about the core of the B2B and really, bringing it is, and opening up and a colossal with networking and learning from one another as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
I have to say, I've never done a podcast at this time of day, and now I look like a zebra.
Wow.
You see this? Like, my window's right there. And usually during the day, I look like a normal person, but right now it's like coming through the blinds.
Your evening persona.
Well, okay. Well, I try to get my lighting as well. Lighting is an issue. I've got my background going in. So I can relate.
I mean, it's fine. I think it's kind of fun.
So let me ask you this, and it's in social impact, etc. So let's talk about how you got into this as a student of yesterday.
Yeah.
And now fast forward to where you are now. We have students, and what we do is we encourage students who they come in an era of where they came through the pandemic, they're entering, they're in graduation season, people looking for jobs and opportunity and deciding their careers. Talk about how you got there.
There we go. I'm just going to stand up at my desk. So I love telling students in particular my journey into social impact because, and Michael, you might appreciate this. I actually started in tech. My major as an undergrad was computer information systems.
That's why I was asking.
That's why. So I feel right at home.
And now, as they say, you know the rest of the story. There it is.
Right. And so, that's what I did. And it was like the tech boom of the late 90s. And I went to college in the DC area. And so we had sort of the Dulles corridor, and Oracle and all these big companies were coming here. And it was like, oh, now is when you get into tech. And so I studied it, and then I graduated and was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to do that.
So you graduated, and you okay? Well,
I graduated. I did. I graduated. So kudos to that. So my plan was to take what I learned, and this is how old I am. At the time, marketing for the internet was very new.
mhm.
So UC Irvine had one of the first programs and I was like, okay, I'm a creative person. I love writing. I'm a very good writer. I'm a great speaker. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to get a temp job here in DC for a little while, and I'm going to then apply to UC Irvine in a year, go learn how to take this tech degree I just got and combine it with marketing. And that was my plan. So the job that I took was working in Government Affairs Office of Mutual of Omaha's insurance company. And so I worked for two lobbyists. One was Republican, one was Democrat. They were best friends back when you were allowed to do that. And they really just I ran their political action committees, and they kind of took me under their wing, and they knew very different sides of politics and policy. And so I was just very, very fortunate to start in that. And so I spent 8 years in politics. I worked for the Children's Defense Fund. I worked on the trade association side. And then I ended up on Obama's 2008 campaign. So I worked in 2007, 2008 for Obama. And it was a groundbreaking campaign. And this is not a push for either side of the aisle or politics. The way he ran his campaign had never been done before. It was very, very different. The way he raised money was very different. He is, I kid you not, the first presidential candidate in history to ever send a tweet.
Wow. Okay.
Now we can't get them off of that platform or any other, but that was so new back then that it was I'm going to do something cool. Right. And so, so you just have, so it was,
Al Gore might have a problem with that.
Well, Al Gore invented the internet. Obama just used social media. But it was just this really interesting sort of community connected campaign. And I worked as a community organizer up and down the East Coast. And so when it was over, spoiler alert, we won. When it was all over, I realized that I didn't want to go back to the ivory tower of DC politics. I didn't want to be in a place where people were making decisions on behalf of people that they were fully disconnected from. That I wanted to do good, and I wanted to do it in the trenches with the people and know exactly who I was representing. And so I went into urban education first, and I learned how to raise money and how to sort of communicate impact. And then I went from there. I spent 7 years at the United Nations Foundation, sort of becoming an expert on gender equity, and ran a global gender equity movement to train young people around the world to become advocates for women and girls in their communities, regardless of what that looks like. And so I've worked on a ton of different issues that I care about, some easier to work on, some harder. And
So you're right in the right place. So so out of that journey, how did you get to the industry?
Oh, so I think you popped off for a second. I just told Sue my industry story. Well, actually, I was set up. So I only mentioned it briefly, but at the time, one of my closest friends was at the AHLA Foundation, and she was in HR. She was newer in the role. And so she called me and she said, hey, I need you to apply for this job. And she said, the person who runs the foundation is leaving, and this is the first executive position that I am recruiting for, and we're not using an agency. And I want to show them the type of, caliber candidate in this type of work that I can bring to the table, and you're perfect. And so I just want you to apply. And I was like, no, I'm good. I don't really know anything about hotels or hospitality. And she said, well, just apply, like, just send me your resume and a cover letter. And it took a little bit. Like, I did the first round virtually with some of the C-suite who shall remain nameless. And I got off and I went upstairs to my husband and I was like, so when do I tell her that she should take my name out of this? Like, I'm just not interested in this at all. And then as I was telling Sue, I connected the board chair at the time, Tom Bardenett, was really the one to like flip it all on its head and show me the power of the industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, and that's inspiring to, I'm sure, the students who are listening. Some take the traditional, apply for a job, and then nothing happens. And so sometimes they have to learn to go off the beaten path.
Always,
to their destination. It may not be the front door, and it might be it'll be a different door, or someone's going to create a door for you. Yeah. So that's good. And so now, if you had to look back in the rearview mirror, would you do things different? How about that?
Like anything or hospitality?
and so that's where we get into the
How much time do we have?
Right.
No. I was only at the foundation for 2 years, and we had a new CEO that came in. And when a new CEO comes in, they get to decide who they want to work with. And I wasn't her person, and that's okay. And so, what's interesting, and I think this is a real gift to me, is my immediate thought was like, oh, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing before. I'm going to go back into social impact. I'll consult for a little while. I'll find the right nonprofit or CSR job and kind of skip back into what I was doing. This was a fun 2 years in hospitality, and I'll go back. And very quickly, I think that the calls started coming in immediately. They were like, oh, hey, saw what you did with Forward. Can you come do that for me? And there are a lot of other really impactful foundations. HSMAI has a foundation, GBTA has a foundation, and they're like, cool, now that you've turned that one around, come help us turn ours around. And so the opportunities to stay in hospitality, but on my own terms and in my own ways. And I can speak a lot more freely now because I'm not bound by all of the members that we had at HLA. Right. And I love that. As you can tell, I'm happy to tell my truth. And so, it's been really wonderful to be able to stay and continue to grow and do good in the industry. I don't think I would do anything differently. I love it. Yeah.
I have, and that's awesome. I have a couple questions. So first, you are so vocal about women and leadership and equity in hospitality. I love it. Where do you think we're making progress? And where do you think we're still sort of, I don't know, pretending maybe? What are your thoughts on that?
It's like you have to look micro and macro on this issue, right? Yeah. So I have heard so much since I came into hospitality, and I did take on the leadership and I grew Forward considerably at AHLA Foundation. And people were like, oh, a lot of women who've been in the industry for many, many years would say, oh, you should have seen Alice, 20 years ago. And it's like, it's changed so much now because 10% of the people are women instead of 1% of the people. And so like on a macro level, you can see that progress is progress, that there is change. We can do it with any social justice issue and movement and say, okay, like we know it could be worse. And I take that a little bit, but it's not good enough. Like we also know it could be better. And we know that there is and always will be the instinct to protect power. Power is owned by white men. And so that instinct is always going to be there. And not to say that there aren't lovely white men in this industry. There are plenty of them. I get to continue to do work with a lot of them. But there is just this, like, you can do a lot to help advance people right up until they bump up against power. And then it's like, oh, wait. Not so fast.
So these leaders, the leaders that are listening, Anna, you're leading right into this. This is awesome. And the ones who hold the power, the decision-making power, what's one uncomfortable question you wish they'd ask themselves about who gets the opportunity in their organization?
It's a good question, by the way. That's a very good one. So,
I mean, the
they need to
question that
feel
I
uncomfortable,
would,
right? What's one uncomfortable question
yeah.
they'd
Oh.
ask themselves about who gets the opportunity in their organization?
I mean, honestly, it would be like truthfully why, right? Because the way that people tend to hire and the way that people tend to is who they connect with. So power is typically in decision making is passed to people. I'm going to pass it to somebody who looks like me, thinks like me, acts like me, talks like me, right? And that's how power is typically passed down because, well, I was a good leader. So the person that feels the most like me is also likely to be a good leader, which is super short-sighted, right? Because again, tons of data out there that tells us that the more diverse senior leadership teams are, the better a company performs. We all know that, but knowing that and doing that are two very different things. And so if it's like, did I put the person who likes the same baseball team, like, is that what we have in common? Or is what we have in common golf? Or, we went to the same college or, those things. Like if they are truly honest with themselves about why somebody is the right person and best fit, I think that would be a pretty big reality, but it's not based on like real company needs. Like the best question to actually ask yourself is what perspective is missing? What voice is missing? What background is missing? And I don't just mean race and gender because we always think like, oh, because that's optics. But like actually what perspective, what experience, what different insight is missing from this conversation that would make us better? And people lead differently, they think differently and all of those things. And instead it's like clones. We're just going to stack the deck to all be the King of Hearts. And it's like, yeah, but there's other suits that we could be bringing to the table. And people, they're just not comfortable with that because again, it threatens power.
Well, one of the things, power itself is, it's something that there's a danger when you hold on to it too long. It tends to make things stale. And that ripple effect of it being stale forces people who could have been great leaders in your organization to leave the organization.
Yep, absolutely.
Because not only they're not able to feel that they can have a chance to a leg up. Everyone aspires to do the next best thing and grow in the organization, right? It's not necessarily for the money, but title may mean something to them as they do their personal development plan. And that's the danger when someone stays too long.
Yes.
In the earlier conversation that we were having, where we break it down, where the traditionalists who think one way, and we're trying to talk about technology, all right, and why it's important to them, and it's like talking to the wall with them. It didn't work out. Is it work?
Yeah.
We didn't stop this company this way, but they don't keep in line with the modern thought process of the customer. And so that disconnect, it becomes cracks, and then the cracks become a hole, and then before you know it, it's a crater.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're too long. And so I really think that, when you have a leader that's been there 10 years, that may be hurting your organization.
Yeah. Well, Congress is a great example of that.
Which one? Which one?
The U.S. Congress.
That's another story in itself. I'm not going to get there.
We're not going
and we're focused on that, not on the politics. But
no, I don't even mean politics. I just mean they're a great example on. Doesn't matter political party. What happens when you don't enforce term limits? Yeah, when somebody can be a decision maker for 30-something years in the same position.
Yeah.
You there are gaps, as you said, that turns into craters, and you see that across everything.
Well, you do, but you're right. Like I agree with you. Where people, literally, there was a vote, and I remember, and it was something. They had to go get this person, roll them in a wheelchair. They hadn't been, to hold on to this power. Been there. Come on, to talk about it.
So, like, how aware do you think? That somebody who's been in their position for 20 years, truly, like, how in touch with reality and people and the times and all of that are our people. Like
Right.
that's the
Don't
thing.
you
They're
don't
not.
you feel like this is like a perfect opportunity for students to be entering the hospitality industry because
It
of that?
is.
Though? Like, I don't know. To me, I'm like, they're the change agents. We
They
need
are.
them coming in.
Mhm.
They grew up with technology. We're in this
Yeah.
technology, you
I
know.
went to a graduation, and he talked about not the change; they're the advantage. They're an
Yeah.
Yeah, we
advantage.
are the advantage. I
He
agree.
was he went to this
Yeah.
school, and he got the job from graduating from this particular school, and worked his way up to be the CIO, the CEO of the company. And he
Hmm.
was the speaker. But what he labeled them that they are an advantage because they came through. They grew up on. They're the first to grow up on technology.
Yep.
They
Yep.
came through. They adapt. They are the definition of resiliency because they came through the pandemic. And look at
Yeah.
them today.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So they
I
need to
think,
build on that. They need to build on that, and they would be an
yeah.
asset to companies today because it's all about resiliency, right?
Yeah.
I know
I
people.
agree. I think that students would be a big advantage and asset to hospitality. Is hospitality positioning itself as a big asset and advantage to students? And I think that's
Ah,
where the disconnect is. I
Right.
think that when you look at the data around the industries that young people, college graduates are most interested in going in, hospitality is nowhere on that list. Why?
Interesting.
yeah.
So that's the responsibility back on hospitality to say, okay, and again, when you continue to have the same people in power, they are continuing to market the industry the same way. They're continuing to lead it in the same way. There's very little about this industry that feels fast moving, interesting, modern, innovative to young people. And that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, they are.
And not that it doesn't exist in this industry, because it does, but it's that story is not being told. It's
Mhm.
not being put out there in that way. We're saying, like, we're still telling the same old, this was a bellhop who's now a general manager story. Like, stop
Right.
telling that
And
story.
listen, I hate it. I listen. I came in the
Yes.
door for the 3 years I was there. I hated that story. He was a bellhop. He worked in every department, etc. And now look at him today. Well, that's nice, but however, did you step back out and look back in? Because that's going to be a better way of looking
Yeah.
at things. Because when you're stuck in there and everything, it becomes a little stale. You're doing the same old,
Yes.
same old. You're not innovation's not there. You're not
Yeah.
able to think outside the box. You just want to do it.
Unless and until you listen to your employees. Like,
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing is like, are these general managers and CEOs actually listening to the pivot that the employee wants them to make? Number one.
No.
Number two, and actually maybe this is number one, are the employees confident enough to tell the general manager and the CEO which way they should pivot? Like, maybe that's the problem, is like they just leave, right? That's why we have
they just leave because we live in,
maybe they're not feeling heard,
Yeah. And the gig economy reigns supreme, right? Like, people can finding a job is not as hard as it used to be in certain ways, or creating, like, we live in side hustle culture. I just recently spoke at Penn State, and I asked this group of predominantly freshmen and sophomores, I said, okay, how many of you have a side hustle? And more than half of the hands went up.
They all do.
So they are the creators of the gig economy. They're the ones that are going to keep it going. They already have LLCs. They have nonprofits. They're doing this work because they don't have to wait anymore.
Right.
They have access literally in their fingertips every day to be able to do that. And so if we can't keep up with that as an industry and embrace it, not even just keep up with it, but embrace it and bring it into the fold and say, cool, you've got a side hustle. Here's how we support you in doing that while you build your career here. And I've seen companies doing that. I've even seen brands in hospitality that do that. I spoke at IHG's International Women's Day event a few years ago, and they had like a whole fair of all of their employees who have side businesses So somebody who makes sunglasses was
that's
selling her
great.
sunglasses, and somebody
Yeah.
who makes this amazing lemonade, like, was there selling her lemonade. So like, they're embracing it. They're saying, we love that you're doing this, and we support that. And so if you don't have that, where other industries are building that and building that in, like, hospitality is going to constantly find itself behind. So I don't think it's about whether young people are right for us. It's whether we can rise to the occasion to be right for them.
So what are the, a student comes to you and they say, you know what, I care about purpose, I care about equity, all this stuff we talk about, right?
Yeah.
But I also want to build a career. What are the 2 to 3 things you would tell them to focus on in their first, I don't know, 2 to 3 years?
So one thing I always tell people is, like, I have been very fortunate that impact is my career, that I can do this, and that I have figured out a way to do this. You don't make a lot of money. So there are downsides to it, right? But I would say, what I always tell young people is, like, they don't have to be the same thing. Like, you actually can. So now I'm going to go back down because the sun is killing me, man. You don't have to do this for a living. You can do good everywhere, every day. It's like, we live in a world where, what I love about the way that social impact works today is, like, how you buy your water, the movies that you go to, the stores that you shop, the companies that you support, that's all social impact. If you are a mindful consumer, like, the most power we have is with our dollars, hands down. So, like, where you put those dollars, I would always say, never go work for a company that is misaligned with your values. Make sure that culturally that this is a company that stands for the same things that you stand for, that wants, that is doing good in some type of capacity, if that's something you care about. But it doesn't mean it has to be your job. You can be an accountant, you can work in finance or ops or marketing or whatever. And you can find a million ways to do good in the world. They don't have to be the same thing. It doesn't have to be your career, but absolutely don't walk into a company that is giving you red flags on the values front or on the social impact front, because I see young people leave all the time for that reason.
Well, it said in a report recently that a lot of the giving and social conscious is really from the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
More than ever before.
Yeah.
So, and they're leading the pack in terms of their giving, donating more, because, they grew up on this electronic age, and they're able to do it quickly, and they hand their hands around, but they're also social conscious.
Yep.
About things. And that changes. And to me, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
The generation before that, they could care less. They wouldn't think about giving you a penny, never mind a dime, right?
Well, millennials were really the ones to start making that shift and sort of starting to think about, like, it was the millennial generation that, like, the Tom's shoe model, right? Like, buy one, get one.
Yeah.
Really revolutionized consumer philanthropy. Nobody was doing that. And Tom's really changed the entire game, and the rest of us who worked in social impact, like, had to catch up and figure out, because suddenly everybody thought about philanthropy that way, like, oh, if I buy this, what does it do, right? If I'm going to spend money, who is it going to help? And so so the millennials, I think, opened that door, and then Gen Z, who now has, that sort of been around them, they know that they can shop their values, they know that they can find out about companies and all that. What is going to happen with Gen Alpha, who's coming right behind them, and I have one of those, is that they are being raised by older millennials. And so that's, or younger millennials, older Gen Z. And so it's very much just in them. Like, my 11-year-old was born an activist. Like, she has the same sort of sense of justice that I had from the time I was born. She is very much the same way, and has issues that she cares about. They're not even my issues. And it's just really interesting. But I think that generation's completely very, very different.
So you've got this you've got this new generation coming in. You've got these seasoned professionals who, the industry is kind of the rug's being pulled out from under their feet. You've got AI, you've got creators, you've got all these new brands, and
Yeah.
they're probably going a little crazy. So what can they do to stay relevant and, still stay rooted in hospitality values? I mean, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts there?
Yeah.
Because it's a tough situation for them as well, and they're struggling to
Listen,
figure it out.
that's
How do
my
they-
literal piece of advice, is to listen. Like,
Mhm.
this whole get off my lawn, or this is how we've always done it, that has never worked. Like,
Yeah.
you've never found a company that has been successful by doing the same thing and never evolving and never growing and never changing. It doesn't work, and everybody wants it. And so if you're really truly, I mean, you both said it earlier, like, you have to listen to what your employees think, no matter whether it's an employee that's been there for 35 years or an employee that is just newly through the door and has been there for 2 weeks. Like, you want to know if your onboarding process is effective, ask somebody who just went through it.
Yeah.
Don't ask the head of HR, ask the person who just went through it. Do they feel like they are ready and prepared and able in their position? Like, these, employee engagement surveys that people do, and then they put out these data points and then they never do anything with it, or they like stand up a committee that's supposed to address these things, but it's all performative. Like, no, actually listen to people and understand their perspective. It's the same with leadership, as we were talking about earlier. The more diverse from multiple perspectives your leadership team is, because you are filling the gaps of the information you don't have, the perspective that you don't have. So right now is a time, like, how do your employees think that AI could benefit them?
Right.
Are you having that conversation with him instead of sitting back and just saying, like, oh, what are we going to do about AI? Like, ask the people who are using it every day, whether you want them to or not. Like, ask those people how it can be beneficial.
Well, here's a mistake that they make. They ask their peers. I mean, CEO,
exactly. Yeah.
And it's
yeah, for sure.
That's a big mistake. And in the beginning, because so-and-so, it may not work for you at this point. And you come rushing in and say, I want to roll out this AI thing and because, over there they have it. However, one of the things, this is where I call it the kitchen cabinet concept, right? You got your best seasons. Well, you establish the best of your people in your kitchen cabinet, and that's your advisory board. And that could be students. It could be that new student that just graduated.
Yeah.
Hey, you're assigned to the kitchen cabinet, and that's what does that mean? Well, okay, just join the meeting, and that person will be on that meeting. There might be the COO, the CEO on that meeting, where the goal is to get fresh perspective on an ongoing basis, so that we can turn those ideas and incorporate, and also look at what we're doing today. We could be doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
When I was at the table, right? Though we got to give them a seat at the table, right?
Yes. Yeah. We need to. Well, never mind. Okay, we need to burn the table down and build something better. But yes, we need to.
The smartest
we won't go there, but yeah.
Well, listen, but the smartest people, believe it or not, and in corporate, I really like to talk to the people who are walking around cleaning the building. I spend time with them. They see things that we don't see
every day, right?
Every day.
So at the end of the day, I always tell them, my door's open. Have a seat. I always ask them that as Director of Information Security. You probably have to ask them that question. So how's it going? What do you see? Anything? And just they will talk to you. They will tell you certain attributes.
Yeah.
And so you don't discount the guy that's cleaning, the house cleaning people. They see a lot, right?
They see a lot, yeah.
And you should talk to them. Spend some time with them, because they have a lot to tell you that you may not see.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
so look,
it's very
we're
true.
coming down. We're coming down the avenue. It's been a pleasure. I can tell you are an interesting approach to hospitality. I myself have learned a lot about the importance of social impact. Never thought that angle of technology and how you came out of information technology, not cybersecurity.
That's right.
And then went into politics. You have a very interesting background. So I really want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I very much enjoy this role that I've kind of taken on as a disruptor. And I really believe that wants to do well by its people, not just from a P&L standpoint, but like that wants to do well for people, for its employees, for its consumers and guests and all of that. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a push in the right direction.
Well, I think one of the things that we all need to do is what you're doing. Make a little part of the world a better place.
Absolutely.
And you're doing it. And you're doing it with the, this whole creator summit is going to be huge. That's going to change the game for hospitality. And I love that you're leading that. And I can't wait to be a part of it and support you and support the industry. So, yeah.
No, Anna, you got to do us a favor. After this conference, you have to tell us, come back and we'll talk about the conference.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I would love that. We're going to have more visibility through just these 200 creators than I think any other conference with thousands of people has in hospitality. And it's going to be, we're going to have a lot of stories to tell. So I'm excited.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
There you go. Our guest, Anna Bloom, CEO of Blue Moss Group, and the founder of the Hospitality Creator Summit, first of its kind platform for bringing together hospitality leaders, creators, and brands to shape the future of storytelling and the influence in the industry. It's been a pleasure having her. Together with my host, Stephen, and with, Susan Grimes. All right, sorry. All right, let me get that fair. It's been a pleasure. And if you joined us, audience, and you find us to be interested and you want to join us as well, or if you're in the industry, feel free, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. My name is Michael Woodson. Until next time. All right, same channel. And on behalf of the show, I also want to thank our sponsors, the Workforce Montgomery Group, the Integrity Restaurant Group, IBM. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, also we welcome you to be that part of us. So until next time, we'll see you then. Thank you very much. Good night.
Do your positive part in the world, everybody.
That's right. That's right.